Hello everyone and welcome to part 3 of the Satisfactory modding tutorial. In this tutorial I'll be covering how to overwrite items within the game so we can change recipes, change the schematic cost, and change items entirely. So the first thing we will need is a program called umodel. There will be a link to this in the description. We'll open this. Then we need to navigate to our Satisfactory game, which will be Epic Games, Satisfactory Early Access, Factory Game, Content, Packs. Click OK, and then OK again. Once this is open, we'll go to Game, Factory Game, Resource, and then Parts, and we will be looking for the nuclear fuel rod. Now within the fuel rod, we have a material folder, a mesh folder, a textures folder, and a UI folder. So we're going to go to the same location within the project, resource, parts, and fuel rod. Now the only two folders we need is the mesh folder and the UI folder. Now we do not need the real mesh or the real icons for the fuel rod. We just need placeholders as references. So within the mesh folder, I'm just going to drop a little cube. And then I'll delete the default material. Open that and then save it. And then within the UI folder, I just have a little PNG. And we need 2 of those. Alright, and the only thing we need to do now is find the name of the mesh and the name of the UI icons. So the icons are nuclear fuel rod underscore 256. And nuclear fuel rod underscore 64. Now we just need to rename the mesh. The mesh will be SM nuclear fuel rod underscore 01. Now we'll open the descriptor and set the mesh to SM underscore nuclear fuel rod and the icon to nuclear fuel rod 64 and then nuclear fuel rod 256. Compile and save that, and now we will check this box and give it its name, which will be nuclear fuel rod, and a description, which I'll just give it a nuclear fuel rod, which is very descriptive. Now the stack size for the fuel rod is actually small. I can change that to huge, can be discarded, and the default energy value for the fuel rod is 75,000, or yep, 75,000, but I can change that to 100,000 if I want to. And the radioactivity is 1.0, I believe. We can leave that as 0. Can make that solid. And the spent fuel class is waste, which is normally 5, but I can set that to 0. We will compile and save that. Now we will right click the descriptor, go to Overwrite in mod, and then just check that box. And this process is the same for every other item in the game. We go to Outpack it. We can see we have the descriptor for the nuclear fuel rod in the overwrite paths, and then we'll pack it. Once the mod is compiled and the game is started, we can give ourselves a fuel rod. I'll give myself 500 to show that the stack size did change. Normally that stack size would be 50. And I'll create a reactor. And the fuel rod will still work within the reactor. Now I'll show you how you can modify recipes and schematics. To modify recipes, we're just going to go back to the factory game folder and then go to recipes. These folders are all the buildings that a recipe is made within, or if it's a building, that'll be the cost of the building or the vehicle. So let's just modify the recipe of a building. I will go to the tow truck folder, which is actually the space elevator. I will name this space elevator. I will give it an ingredient of concrete, which is actually cement in the files, and I'll make that 1 concrete. This will be produced in the building gun. And it will produce the space elevator. We will compile and save that. Right click that, overwrite in mod, check the box, and then we'll outpack it. Now that the mod is compiled and the game is started, we can go to our special tab, space elevator, and I actually spelled it wrong, but we can see it only costs 1 cement to produce. Before I move on to schematics, I will mention you need to have UModel closed before you pack your mod. To modify schematics, we will once again be using UModel. We go to Factory Game, Buildable, Factory, Trading Post, UI, and Schematic Icons. You'll right-click, Export Folder Contents, and click OK. Now we will go to the folder that has UModel in it. Go to UModel Export, Game, Factory Game, Buildable, Factory, Trading Post, UI, and Schematic Icons. And these are all the schematic icons within the game. These are the tutorial icons and all the other icons used within the hub. So the schematic we will be modifying is Logistics, which is schematic 1-2. Which will be in schematics, progression, and then 1-2. But first we have to get the icon, so we'll go back to Factory Game, Buildable, Factory, Trading Post. You'll have to make a UI folder, and then make a schematic icons folder. And then I've just imported all of these into the game. So the icon we'll be using is schematics icon logistics. So we'll go back to Factory Game, schematics, progression, 1-2. And then I will select logistics. This is a hub upgrade. It is named logistics. It is within tier 1. Now we can set the cost to whatever we want. So I will make this cost leaves and make that cost 1 leaves with a return time of 0. So it'll instantly unlock and there will be no delay in between unlocks. And I will add the recipes that it adds. So the logistics unlocks productivity display, which will be building efficiency, and it unlocks the conveyor splitter, attachment splitter, conveyor attachment merger. And then conveyor lift Mark 1. And it does not add anything to the scanner. It does not unlock the map. Does not unlock overclock. Does not add any slots. And public builds. So once we have everything in here, we can compile, save, right-click schematic 1, 2, override in mod, click the checkbox, unpack it, close UModel, and then unpack it. Alright, and once the mod is compiled, we can go to our hub terminal, and then go to logistics, and it costs 1 leaf. And there's still a return timer for some reason. I would try setting that to like 10 seconds, maybe it can't be 0. And we have the 1 cement space elevator. If it'll let me place it. And we have our larger stack non-radioactive nuclear fuel rods. Alright, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thank you for watching.